Welcome to Virtual CB1A. This is Miss Rena, and we are going to continue our review on derivatives. For today's lesson, we will focus on basic derivative rules. And we will start with constant multiples. So it is defined by, if you have a constant k multiplied by f of x, our function, and you are asked to find its derivative, then the derivative will be k multiplied by the first derivative of our function f of x. Let's look at some examples. For example, you have g of x is equal to 2x to the 4th power. So for this, all you have to do is to retain our constant k, which is 2, and then find the derivative of x raised to 4. What is the derivative of x raised to 4? So based on our previous lesson, the derivative of a monomial in the form x raised to n is equal to n times x raised to n minus 1. So the derivative of x raised to 4 is equal to, natin siyang ganyan, is equal to, don't confuse this with raised to 1 ha. Baka ma-confuse. Tignan nga natin siyang ganito. Our function is f of x is equal to x raised to 4. So to get the first derivative of this function, all you have to do is to multiply 4 by x raised to 4 minus 1. So subtract 1 from our power. We have 4 times x raised to 3, or simply you have 4x cubed. So for here, since we already know the derivative of our function x raised to 4, just multiply it by our constant 2. We have 4x cubed. You will get 8x raised to 3. So that's all. I hope that was clear. Let's have one more example. So for our next example, we have h of x is equal to 3x squared na lang. Simplihan na lang natin. So, to get the first derivative, of course, you have to affix our constant 3 and then get the derivative of our function x squared. The derivative of our function x squared is, of course, 2x. So, you will end up here with 3 times 2, which is 6. And then our variable x. So the final answer is 6x. So ganun lang kasimple yung paghahanap ng derivative for constant multiples. Now let's have addition and subtraction. Simple lang din to. If you have two functions f of x and g of x and you were asked to find its derivative, then just get the derivative of the first function, add or subtract the derivative of the second function. For example, you have 2x plus 1. Yan, click muna natin siya. Hindi pa pala siya nakaselect. So, for example, we have 2x plus 1. What is the derivative of 2x plus 1? Yan. Our function here, lagay natin function h of x is the sum of the function 2x and the function 1. So, to get the first derivative of h of x, all you have to do is to get the derivative of 2x, which is 2. And then our constant 1 with the derivative 0. So, for the derivative of this whole function, you are going to end up with 2. Let's have another one. If you have, ano kaya magandang letter? M of x. Ayan. M of x is equal to 3x squared plus 4x minus 3. So, what is our derivative here? So, get the first derivative of the first function, which is 6x. Get the derivative of the second function, which is 4. And then, get the derivative of the third function, which is 0. So, the derivative of this function is simply 6x plus 4. Okay? Now, let's move to the, let's move to the third derivative rule. Ay, visible pa. Ayan, this is called the product rule. For the product rule, you have f of x times g of x. When you are asked to find the derivative of their product, all you have to do is to determine the first derivative of your first function multiply it by your second function, g of x, and then add the product of your first function and the derivative of your second function. Medyo nakakalito, di ba? Gawin natin ganito lang siya kasimple. Your given function h of x is given by 2, x plus 1 multiplied by 2x plus 5. Okay, what is the derivative of this function? Hindi pa siya naka-distribute. Instead of using the FOIL method to distribute x and 1 to the first and second term of the second factor, medyo mahaba siya kasi magko-combine like terms ka pa, didistribute ka pa, diba? You can simply opt with this formula. Our first function is x plus 1, the first factor, and our second function is 2x plus 5, the second factor. Gawa natin ng side by side mamaya para makita nyo kung ano yung difference nila. Nagbabagal na naman siya. Okay. So get the first derivative of our first function. The first derivative of x is 1. And the first derivative of 1 is 0. So hindi na natin siya kailangang isulat. Pwedeng 1 na lang yung ilagay natin dyan. Multiply it by your second function, which is 2x plus 5. Ayan. And then, add the first function, x plus 1, times the derivative of your second function. The derivative of 2x is, of course, 2. And the derivative of 5 is 0. So, hindi na natin siya kailangan isulat. Ganito na lang siya. Distribute natin si 1 sa 2x plus 5. So, you are going to end up with 2x plus 5 pa rin. Tapos, doon naman sa kabila, plus, distribute naman natin si 2 dun sa dalawa. We have 2x plus 2. Now, all you have to do is to combine like terms. 2x plus 2x is 4x. And then, 5 plus 2 is 7. I told you earlier that we are going to make a comparison. What if, instead of using the product rule, you opted with the FOIL method first, and then the application of the last rule that we have discussed, subtraction and addition, addition and subtraction derivative. So, dito, instead of using the product rule, mag-FOIL method tayo. X times 2x is 2x squared. Sorry, medyo bumabagal na siya. And then, x times 5x, times 5 is 5x. So, meron na tayong first and outer product. Doon naman tayo sa inner. 1 times 2x is 2x. And last. Yung last natin will be 1 times 5, which is plus 5. Okay. We can combine like terms. We have 2x squared plus 7x plus 5. And then after that, instead of using the product rule nga, mag-addition and subtraction lang tayo, derivative of sum and difference. We have 2x squared is 4x, and then 7x is 7. And of course, the derivative of a constant function, 5, is 0. So you will end up with the same answer, 4x plus 7. So hindi ko kayo ina-encourage na laging mag-distribute. Katulad nito na laging mag-FOIL method o kaya gumamit ng distributive property of equality. Because on some cases, it will be more practical to use the product rule since the terms for your factors will be more than just 2 terms. Hindi siya katulad dito na binomial by binomial lang. Minsan ang ibibigay ko sa inyo, marami na yung term inside. So you will be forced to use the product rule if you want to save time and energy sa pagsasagot. So I suggest that you keep this formula in mind. Now let's go to the next rule. We have the quotient rule. This is almost similar with the product rule. Kaso, for this, you have to get the difference. And instead of getting the, kasi dito sa una, sa product rule, addition, ang ginamit natin, f prime of x plus g of x plus f of x times g prime of x. Dito naman, we are going to employ Ay, nag-overlap. Ayan, we are going to employ subtraction. Parehas pa rin naman yung arrangement niya. Halos. Magka-partner pa rin si g of x at saka si f prime of x at saka si f of x at saka si g prime of x. But if you will take notice on the first formula that I introduced to you, the product rule, ganito yung itsura niya. So, get the derivative of the first, multiply it by the second function. Pagdating dito, ayan. Sila pa rin. Pwede mo pa rin yan isulat as f prime of x times g of x. Pero, ang operation mo na, subtraction, minus f of x g prime of x. Parehas lang, yun nasa ano nila. Nasa formula nila. Nahaching ako, sorry. Over the square of the denominator. Okay? Now, let's continue with the example. Yun nandito kanina, yun na lang din yung gamitin natin. Hindi. Magsimula tayo sa simple lang. H of x. Gamitin natin ng h of x is equal to 3x squared over, di ba maganda? 4x. Yan. Dalian lang natin siya. So, 3x squared over 4x. Actually, for the sake of illustration, para madalian lang tayo dun sa pagsa-substitute, I will give a function that can be simplified. Kasi baka may magsabi sa inyo, pwede naman i-simplify na lang to na 3x over 4. Yes, you have a point there. This can be simplified as 3x over 4. Pero sabi ko nga, for the sake of illustration lang, kaya ako kumuha ng ganyan, yung simpleng function. Kung gusto niyo na mahirap, intay kayo, maya-maya lang. Bigyan natin ng medyo mas complex na example. So, for this one, we have the second function. Or sabi ko nga, ako kasi personally, ito yung sinusunod ko. Kasi gusto ko na madaling i-recall yung product at saka yung quotient rule. So, parehas ko na siyang ginaganyan. On some books, maisingit ko lang ha, on some books, you will find the quotient rule, the product rule to be different than the formula that I introduced you. On some books, you will see there that instead of using f prime of x and g of x as your first term, you will have f of x times g prime of x as your first term, and your second term will be g of x times f prime of x. Minsan naman, f of x times g prime of x plus f prime of x times g prime of x. I personally use this kasi I want my computations to be more simple. Gusto ko FG lang siya. Mas madali ko kasi siyang nare-recall. FG, F prime G, FG prime. Yun lang yung lagi kong tinatandaan. All I have to do kapag quotient na yung pinapahanap sa akin is to change the operation, addition, to subtraction. Para, ewan ko, ako, personally, yun yung ginagamit ko kasi nga madali siya tandaan. Pero, ito, parehas naman silang tama. Also, kung makaka-encounter kayo ng ganitong formula, kasi baka may mahilig magbasa sa inyo, this is also, ayan, hindi na siya kasha. This is also valid kasi if you will take notice, the operations that we use in the product rule are, multiplication and addition lang. And multiplication and addition are both commutative. So, kahit na magkapalit tong dalawang terms na yan, basta magka-partner yung isang prime, tapos yung walang prime, tapos yung dito naman sa kabila, ganun din, isang prime, walang prime. Huwag mo lang pagsasamahin yung parehas na first derivative at saka parehas na original function kasi mali na yung magiging sagot nyo nun. As long as the derivative of the first is with the function of the second and the derivative of the second is with the first function, okay lang yun. Ayan, balik tayo dun sa quotient rule. Ayan. Baka kasi nga may magtaka, iba yung formula na ginagamit ko. So, ito lang, dito ako comfortable F prime G, F G prime. So, ito na yung gamitin natin. Unahin natin yung first derivative ng 3x squared. So, si first derivative ng 3x squared is, nakakalimutan ko siya pindutin, 6x. Diba? Tapos, yung, ano naman, yung second function, we have 4x. Now, for the difference, we have the first function, 3x squared. Tapos, yung derivative of the denominator or the second function, we have 4x. Of course, the denominator's first derivative will be 4. Ayan. Now, let's get the square of our denominator. That is going to be the new denominator of your first derivative. Nakalimutan ko pala ilagay dito. First derivative of h. Ayan. Masyadong malaki. H. Yan. Now, let's simplify. Ayaw gumana nung eraser ko. Okay. Now, let's simplify. 6x times 4x is 6 times 4, 24x minus 3 times 4 is 12. And then, ito pala yung squared. Yan. Squared. All over. 4x squared, of course, we are going to have 16x squared. Simplify ulit. So, meron tayo ditong pwedeng i-combine na like terms. We will have 24 minus 12 is 12 pa rin. 12x squared over 16x squared, which will give us the derivative. Tanggal na to. 12 over 16. Pareha silang may factor na 4. Pwede mo silang ilagay as 3/4. So, our derivative here is just 3/4. Ayan. Bakit? Sabi. Pakita natin yung kaninang solution kung sinimplify natin siya kaagad. Siyempre, mas simple to kasi nga ginamit niyo yung common sense niyo, which will tell you to simplify your function first. Instead of writing it as 3x squared over 4x, you can write it as 3x over 4. So, simple lang nito, di ba? Kasi pwede mong gawing constant, si 3/4, tapos ang function mo lang ay si x. Alam natin that if we have constant function 3 over 4, i-multiply lang natin siya sa derivative ng monomial function natin na x, which is just 1. You are going to end up with 3 over 4. But as I've told you earlier, this is not always the case. Sometimes you will encounter problems that are more complicated than this one. Lagay pa tayo ng isang example, yung medyo medyo mas challenging. Yan. Gawin natin siyang binomial. Gawin natin m of x ulit. M of x is equal to x squared. Complicated pero ang basic ng mga nilalagay ko, di ba? And then, let's have here, ano kayo maganda? 3x minus 4. Ayan. So, what is the first derivative of this function? So, sabi ko nga kanina, mas gusto ko na inuuna yung first derivative ng first function added by or multiplied by the second function, and then minus the first function times the derivative of the second function. Again, ang formula na sinusunod ko ay f prime g minus f g prime. Yan. Para mas manare-recall ko siya ng mas mabilis. Ganyan yung ginagawa ko. Commutative naman ang multiplication so pwede naman silang magkabaligtad. Huwag nyo lang babaligtarin yung terms kasi iba na yung magiging sagot doon. Now, let's go back to our function. Enough na tayo sa mga reminders ko. Tsaka tips. So, f prime of x, the first derivative of the first function is just 1. Kasi, meron tayo ditong identity function x, which has the derivative of 1, and the constant function 2, which has the derivative of 0. Multiply natin siya sa second function, 3x minus 4. Mabilis ako magturo, bumabagal ako gawa nitong pangsulat ko. Minus, we have x minus 2 multiplied by the derivative of the second function, 3x minus 4. The derivative of 3x, of course, is 3. And then the derivative of negative 4 is, of course, 0. So, 3 na lang siya. All over the square of the denominator. So, si 3x minus 4, i-square natin siya. Yan. Now, let's have... Ay, ano ba to? Wait lang 3x minus 4 minus 3x minus 6. You have to be careful with your grouping symbols, ha? And then, just square our denominator. Pero mamaya ko na siya gagawin kasi katamad pa. Charot. Okay. Para hindi confusing. So, mamaya natin siya isama. We have 3x minus 4 minus 3x plus 6 over 3x minus 4 squared. Okay, now let's combine like terms. 3x, 3x. Ayan, tanggal na sila. Minus 4 plus 6, we have 2. So, we have 2 over 3x minus 4. Pwedeng wag nyo na itong i-expand. Yun sa denominator. Unless sinabi ko na i-expand nyo for your activity sa akin, edi expand nyo. But otherwise, pwedeng ganito na lang yung final answer. Since wala namang masisimplify between the numerator and denominator, you can present your answer this way. Okay? Kaya lang tayo nagpa-factorize to see if there will be any common factors between the numerator and denominator. If you are sure that there will be no common factors between them, then there is no need to expand. You can write your answer this way. 3x minus 4 squared na lang yung nasa baba. Okay? I think dun sa exercise na ibibigay ko sa inyo, nakaset na kasi yun eh. Merong common factor between the numerator and denominator. So you have to be careful on that part. You have to see if there will be common factors between them. And then if there are any, simplify pa. Sa case natin dito, wala na kailangan i-simplify. So ganyan na lang yan. Now, naglagay ako dito ng supposedly dapat tapos na talaga tayo eh. Yan, 30 minutes na. So reciprocal rule, hindi ko to sinama dun sa module kasi subtopic lang naman kasi siya ng quotient rule. So pwedeng hindi na siya separated. If you have, teka lang ha. Okay. If you have a function such as this, anong layer ba ako ngayon? Layer 5. Ayan. If you have a function such as this, x raised to negative 3, di ba you can write it as a quotient? We have 1 over x raised to 3, which will give you, of course, a numerator f of x and a denominator g of x. And if we are going to follow the formula for the derivative of this quotient, our quotient rule, meron tayong, balikan natin si f prime g minus fg prime. Ayan. May prime to may prime. Erase natin dito sa taas. Erase. Pen. Yun. Nagana. Over g of x squared. Diba, mangyayari lang naman, ang f of x mo ay 1, tapos ang g of x mo ay x cube. Naku, lalo siyang bumabagal. And then, for f prime of x, mawala na siya. 0 na lang siya kasi constant siya eh. Tapos si g prime of x naman, applying our idea of monomials in the form x raised to n, you have 3x raised to 2. Ano yung mangyayari dito? So, si f prime of x, 0 na siya. Times g of x, which is x cubed. Since multiplication by 0 is 0, tanggal na rin siya. Matitira na lang sa'yo yung second term, which is minus 1 times the derivative of your second function, which is 3x squared. And always, 1 lang si f of x kasi nga reciprocal siya. 'Di ba? So, itong part na to, pwede mo na lang siya isulat as, lagay ko dito yung formula, negative g prime of x. 'Di ba? Sa numerator, pwedeng negative g prime of x na lang siya. Punta na tayo kay denominator. Si denominator, still, square pa rin siya. The square of x cubed. So, simplifying this, you are going to arrive with negative 3x squared over x raised to the 6th power. Ayan. And then after that, simplify lang natin. We have negative 3 over x cubed. Ayan. Ay, but x cubed? X to the 4th. Sorry. X to the 4th. Ayan. Kasi 6 minus 2 tayo. Burahin ko nga siya na maayos. Sobrang bagal na. Kailangan na natin mag-restart. Kanina ko pa kasi ito ginagamit eh. Hindi naman siya i7. We have x to the 4th. Ayan. So, for the denominator, we have g of x raised to 2. This is our formula for getting the derivative of reciprocals. Okay? And bonus na formula ko na lang siya. Now, please check out your Google Classroom. I will be posting some activities for this part. And then, let us start ko lang yung laptop ko. We are going to continue with our next topic, which is all about the trigonometric functions. Derivative of trigonometric functions. So, thank you for staying with me for more than 30 minutes. I'll see you on our video conference. Bye!